Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. This file is being recorded for the January 2023 edition of Socialism for All, and it's an audiobook of The Bankruptcy of Capitalism by Paul LaFargue from 1900. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe, and consider supporting on Patreon at patreon.com/socialismforall. There's a link to Patreon in the video description. So this piece was written in 1900. The source is The Right to be Lazy and Other Studies, translated by Charles Kerr. The online version is courtesy of the LaFargue Internet Archive within the Marxist Internet Archive, marxists.org. It's been up there since 2000. HTML transcription and markup by Sally Ryan and Enda O'Callaghan. And thanks to MIA for hosting this and thousands of other free Marxist texts. Let's begin. The 19th century was the century of capitalism. Capitalism filled that century to overflowing with its commerce, its industry, its manners, its fashions, its literature, its art, its science, its philosophy, its religion, its politics, and its civil code, more universal than the laws imposed by Rome upon the nations of the ancient world. The capitalist movement, starting from England, the United States, and France, has shaken the foundations of Europe and of the world. It has forced the old feudal monarchies of Austria and Germany and the barbaric despotism of Russia to put themselves in line. And in these last days, it has gone into the extreme east, into Japan, where it has overthrown the feudal system and implanted the industry and the politics of capitalism. Capitalism has taken possession of our planet. Its fleets bring together the continents which oceans had separated. Its railroads, spanning mountains and deserts, furrow the earth. The electric wires, the nervous system of the globe, bind all nations together, and their palpitations reverberate in the great centers of population. Now, for the first time, there is a contemporary history of the world. Events in Australia, the Transvaal, China, are known in London, Paris, New York, at the moment that they're brought about, precisely as if they happened in the outskirts of the city where the news is published. Civilized nations live off of the products of the whole earth. Egypt, India, Louisiana furnish the cotton, Australia the wool, Japan the silk, China the tea, Brazil the coffee, New Zealand and the United States the meat and grain. The capitalist carries in his stomach and on his back the spoils of the universe. The study of natural phenomena has undergone an unprecedented, an unheard of development. New sciences, geology, chemistry, physics, etc. have arisen. The industrial application of the forces of nature and of the discoveries of science has taken on a still more startling development. Some of the geometrical discoveries of the scientists of Alexandria, 2,000 years old, have for the first time been utilized. The production of machine industry can provide for all demand, and more. The mechanical application of the forces of nature has increased humans' productive forces tenfold, 100-fold. A few hours' daily labor, furnished by the able-bodied members of the nation, would produce enough to satisfy the material and intellectual needs of all. But what has come of the colossal and wonderful development of science, industry, and commerce in the 19th century? Has it made humanity stronger, healthier, happier? Has it given leisure to the producers? Has it brought comfort and contentment to the people? Never has work been so prolonged, so exhausting, so injurious to people's bodies, and so fatal to our intelligence. Never has the industrial labor which undermines health, shortens life, and starves the intellect been so general, been imposed on such ever-growing masses of laborers. The men, women, and children of the proletariat are bent under the iron yoke of machine industry. Poverty is their reward when they work, starvation when they lose their jobs. In former stages of society, famine appeared only when the earth refused her harvests. In capitalist society, famine sits at the hearth of the working class when granaries and cellars burst with the fruits of the earth, and when the market is gorged with the products of industry. All the toil, all the production, all the suffering of the working class has but served to heighten its physical and mental destitution, to drag it down from poverty into wretchedness. Capitalism, controlling the means of production and directing the social and political life of a century of science and industry, has become bankrupt. The capitalists have not even proved competent, like the owners of chattel slaves, to guarantee to their toilers the work to provide their miserable livelihood. Capitalism massacred them when they dared demand the right to work, a slave's right. The capitalist class has also made a failure of itself. It has seized upon the social wealth to enjoy it, and never was the ruling class more incapable of enjoyment. The newly rich, those who have built up their fortunes by accumulating the filchings from labor, live like strangers in the midst of luxury and artistic treasures, with which they surround themselves through a foolish vanity to pay homage to their millions. The leading capitalists, the millionaires and billionaires, are sad specimens of the human race, useless and hurtful. The mark of degeneracy is upon them. Their sickly offspring are old at birth. Their organs are sapped with diseases. Exquisite meats and wines load down their tables, but the stomach refuses to digest them. Women, expert in love, perfume their couches with youth and beauty, but their senses are benumbed. They own palatial dwellings and enchanting sights, and they have no eyes, no feeling for joyful nature with its eternal youth and change. Sated and disgusted with everything, they are followed everywhere by ennui, boredom, as by their shadows. They yawn at rising and when they go to bed. They yawn at their fests and at their orgies. They began yawning in their mother's womb. The pessimism which, in the wake of capitalist property, made its appearance in ancient Greece 6 centuries before Jesus Christ, and which has since formed the foundation of the moral and religious philosophy of the capitalist class, became the leading characteristic of the philosophy of the second half of the 19th century. The pessimism of Theognis sprang from the uncertainties and vicissitudes of life in the Greek cities, torn by the perpetual wars between rich and poor. The pessimism of the capitalist is the bitter fruit of satiety, ennui, and the impoverishment of the blood. The capitalist class is falling into its second childhood. Its decrepitude appears in its literature, now returning to its starting point. Romantic literature, the literary form proper to the capitalist class, which started out with the romantic Christianity of Chateaubriand, is returning to the same point, after passing through the historical novel and the character novel. Capitalism, which in its virile and combative youth in the 18th century had wished to emancipate itself from Christianity, resigns itself in its old age to practices of the grossest superstition. The capitalist class, bankrupt, old, useless, and hurtful, has finished its historic mission. It persists as ruling class only through its acquired momentum. The proletariat of the 20th century will execute the decree of history, will drive it from its position of social control. Then, the stupendous work in science and industry accomplished by civilized humanity, at the price of such toil and suffering, will engender peace and happiness. Then will this vale of tears be transformed into an earthly paradise.